all of you who may be listening throughout this expanse called Earth. It is May 10th, 2021, the day after Mother's Day. Hello, mothers. Happy Mother's Day belatedly. The new WCEG Network welcomes you. This program is Issues and Answers, and I am your host, Norman A. Carter Jr. On your computer or smartphone, you can view or hear us by typing WCEG talkradio.com into your browser, then hit enter, and on the next screen, click the live stream tab. On your smart TV, just click the YouTube icon and search for WCEG Network and look for Issues and Answers with Norman Carter. WCEG stands for Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. Our programming goal is to leave you more informed, excuse me, and more empowered than you were before you tuned in. Our motto, we speak life into the community. You may like us on Facebook and also view us live there. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG underscore talk underscore radio, or you can make it simple by just at WCEG Network. Disclaimer time, beep, beep. The topics and opinions on Issues and Answers are those of moi, Norman A. Carter Jr., and my guest, and not the WCEG Network. Please leave my boss alone. This is my show, and these are my words and the words of my guest. And I've got some great guests here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you our stellar guest hosts for today. First, Jeff Mason. Jeff is a 33-year veteran of combined law enforcement, excuse me, losing my voice here, and public safety, who has started his career in law enforcement in 1985 during a consent decree in the Philadelphia Police Department. This consent decree was awarded to help increase the number of minorities in the rank and file of the department. Very important, especially today, to reflect the community in which it served. Jeff, I'm skipping a little bit, served in a lot of units. He has a Master of Science degree in organizational leadership from the Nova Southeastern University. He has held several leadership roles in the various assignments throughout his career. The combination of his experience and education has allowed him to pride himself in modeling the traits of leadership with the best practices that has helped inspire others to inform at their highest level of professionalism. Love that. Jeff is also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and a Master Mason in the Prince Hall Free and Accepted Masons. In his spare time, if he has any, he finds enjoyment by mentoring and working out and maintaining a healthy lifestyle overall, something we all should aspire to do. Next, Shaun Flowers. He is not the Lone Ranger. I will explain this to you, ladies and gentlemen. Shaun has spent over 30 years in both the public and private sectors as a law enforcement officer. A compassionate early retirement was activated by the need to care for his ailing and dependent mother. And after graduating from high school, he pursued his ambition to get into police work. After graduating from the police academy with recognition, that's important, and capitalizing on his sterling academic grounding, which you can find out about more if you read his book, he became the go-to guy for the upper level narcotics, offenders and major drug traffickers as a senior police officer. Shaun has received several certifications in wiretapping and electronic surveillance. He is a memberships in the Organized Crime Law Enforcement Network and the African American Civic League for Police Officers. In recognition of his outstanding service over the years, Shaun has been awarded a number of citations, including Police Department Bravery Commendations, Merit Awards, Commendatory Letters, Appreciation Letters, and Top Gun Training certificates for narcotics investigations. When not consulting, Shaun spends time power walking, bicycling, and weight training. Now, some of you may be asking, why is that man wearing a mask? Well, let me tell you something. Oddly enough, the three of us were on some level involved in narcotics investigations. And I entered the narcotics unit in the late stage of my career as a supervisor. And I supervised. There were certain times when I was dressed undercover. There were certain times when I went out into the field and I had to do certain things out in the field that the regular officers would do. Shaun was special. Shaun was involved in many high level, sensitive, dangerous investigations. And I don't know about Shaun, but I can tell you from my own personal experience, excuse me, there have been no less than 4 instances where people whom I had arrested, some of whom for narcotics violations, attempted to either assault me or come after me or follow me, whatever. There were some really hazardous situations. And as much as I did in my career, you can exponentially magnify that or multiply that by 100-fold as to what Shaun has done in his career. And there's a personal safety issue for himself and his family. And that's why today we have him here dressed in his informal outfit. And that's just an explanation to my audience. Uh, Before we get too far into this, and what I forgot to mention that Shaun is the author of a book called Expunged, and it's the memoirs of an undercover police officer. And folks, this is not just about policing. This is about life. This is not just about policing. Policing is involved in the book, and there's some very interesting things. I will tell you that the beginning of the book, uh, I don't know why someone doesn't pick this up and make this into a movie. But anyway, I digress. Let me get back to Jeff. Jeff came in, he mentioned under a consent decree. So, Jeff, I'd like to start off with you. Uh, your your goals prior to becoming a police officer, the struggles that or any problems you may have encountered coming in under this consent decree, and a little bit about your perceptions of what you saw, uh, per, particularly in your first few weeks in the police academy.
Sure. Thank you, Norman. Let's see. As Norman stated, that I started the academy in 1985, and it was during the consent decree, which is a court order that was awarded to members who fought for getting more minorities into the police department. Was because it was found that our numbers were not represented in the police department compared to the numbers of citizens within the city of Philadelphia. So under that court order, there was a hiring incentive, more or less, that they went out in the community. The recruitment units went out to the community, and they had recruitment drives for the police department. And in the early 80s, I believe, 1980, early 80s, forgot the year, but I filled out the application, went through all the preliminary. And fortunately, because I was a veteran, I got veterans preference included with that, which put me pretty high on the list. But at that time, I was still attending college. I believe I was at Temple University at the time. And the first time I got the notice, I believe it was the yellow card that they sent out. If you were still interested in becoming a police officer, fill it out and mail it in. Well, I believe it was 1984. The card came in the mail, and I said to myself, do I want to become a police officer or do I want to finish college? Well, I just pledged fraternity, and I was a neophyte, and I was high on just becoming a newly pledged member of fraternity, and I said, I'm having too much fun. But on the other hand, my mother said, you need a job. You're in your early 20s. It's about time for you to make your way. So the first card I didn't send in, the second card came in, and she filled it out for me. She forged my signature and whatnot, and she sent the card in. So the next thing I know, I get a welcome. You've been selected to start in June 24th of 1985. And I turned to my mom. I said, Mom, I've been accepted to the police academy. She said, I know. I filled out the card for you. I said, okay, I get it. So mothers know best. Well, anyway, prior to that, I've always considered myself a humanitarian, and I always believed in public service. I believe in getting your blessings by blessing other people. I was an EMT paramedic. I was in the Navy, and I was a hospital corpsman. So I was always about helping people and giving back to the community and trying to help people, mankind in general. So I believe that we get blessed when we help others, like I said, and it's a intangible feeling that I get overall, by providing service to people. So I went in the academy, and my experiences in the academy, it was very diverse. I would say there was a fair number of minorities in my class, but when I graduated the academy, I was assigned to the Center City District. And for those who know Philadelphia and the layout of Philadelphia, it was the 6th District. It was at 11th and Winter or Vine Street or something like that. And it's predominantly a lot of businesses, a lot of office businesses, commercial businesses, this, that, and the other. And I believe it's one of the more pristine assignments that one could get straight out of the academy. And started there. And as a new rookie minority in a downtown district, it's kind of rare, So when I got there, you could tell that my presence kind of made people a little uneasy, and I would say people in general, I would say people, members of other races, because, either you have to have a dime back then, or now it's a quarter. Now I don't know what it is now, Bitcoin now, but in order to get, to special assignments. But anyway, I was asked, how did you get here? Who do you know? That's pretty big whenever you whenever you get to a special unit and a pristine district. Mm-hmm. So when I got there, I felt kind of uneasy, like I shouldn't be there, this, that, and the other. And I could hear people talk under their breaths, he's one of those affirmative action officers, consent decree. And, with that hovering over your head, it kind of makes your job a little uneasy, because not only is safety a factor, but also you have other coworkers and colleagues, looking at you kind of side-eyed. So, that's how I started off my police career. And After that, I was transferred to the 12th district, which was
Mhm.
predominantly is in the southwest part of the city,
Right.
and that's where I met Norman Carter.
Right.
I
Yeah.
got transferred there.
I
You
just
know,
I,
that was
I just want to jump on to Shaun, because before we get too far
yes,
ahead, because all the three of us have different paths to coming onto the job, and I really want to get into his before we get further into our careers. So, Shaun, could you explain to us your career path, your aspirations prior to, and your experiences during the early part of your career?
Yeah, I would first like to thank you for inviting me on the show.
Thank
And
you.
I would, secondly, I would like to start out with an African proverb, and it goes like this: out of the story, the hunter's story will always be glorified. Okay, my and meaning
I
that
get it.
young, young people really need to listen to other people's stories to keep them from going down the same line and making mistakes that myself and other people made. Now, I started out in middle class suburbs. I grew up fast. I hung out with the older guys. I learned the streets fast. And my parents kind of seen me going down the wrong way. And, one day your life can change in seconds. Uh, me and my uh, me and my best friend, or stop at a gas station to look at a car, and next thing you know, the owner comes out calling us the N word. So my friend was ready to hit him, but I stopped it. I said, "It's not worth it, man. You'll kill this little guy, man." So we go to get in the car and leave, and he jumped on the top of the car with my friend driving, and still looking through the window of a Volkswagen. You know, the Volkswagen Beetle. There's no hood.
Hmm. Right.
So he's yelling through the windshield, nigga, N word, N word, and my buddy said, "Okay, end this." And next thing you know, he falls off. Who's sitting there but the cops? Now we're in pursuit. The cops are chasing us, license siren. My buddy pulls into a driveway. We jump out, run. Getting back to the lion story, every morning the lion wakes up. He has to go chase a gazelle to eat and feed his cubs. Well, I was a little faster than my buddy, so they got him first and they whooped his you know what. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. So now I go to give myself up. And this is what my story is about. And I startled the officer because it's dark. And he has his back to me, turns around with his flashlight and gun, and he's shaking. And I'm begging him now, please don't shoot. Please don't shoot. I give up. I give up. And he goes, shut up. I said, I'm trying to save my life. I'm not telling him this, but I'm
Right.
trying, you're not to shoot me, and you're telling me to shut up. So finally, after we go back and forth, he's good. I get on the ground. And I could see him shaking still, the flashlight. I said, oh, he's going to shoot me in the back of the head now. So I said, please don't shoot me, officer. I give up. He goes, did I tell you shut up again? So
Wow.
make a long story short, running is not a good thing. And and you really have to obey their commands when you're dealing with, officers. But as a result of this, uh, they took us into the station, and he couldn't press charges because he jumped on our car. We didn't hit him. So my parents would taught us a lesson and said, "Nah, leave him there." So we got fingerprinted a photograph. As a result of that, my parents said, "You can either go to Army or you can go to college." I went to college, uh, made it through, graduated with my bachelor's, and then I tried to get a job, which was impossible because I had a record. So I went 5 years unemployed. Finally, I asked my parents to expunge my record because there were no charges, and that's how I got into the police department. And this is what my book is about, is to show how getting in trouble can follow you throughout your life. So I don't want to go too far ahead of you, but then
No.
after the academy, that was in the 80s.
Hmm.
So, the narcotic unit was all Caucasian, as you know.
Right.
And they came to me and they said, "What are you? You black or Puerto Rican?" I said, I could be both. They said, good answer. Come on. So 3 months out of the academy, I'm undercover buying kilos, guns, doing crazy, dangerous stuff. But you know, my story is really, really, and I don't want to get too far ahead of you, but I want to get into the reversals because that's a whole different topic. But maybe Jeff wants to jump back in.
No, that's I mean that's good because the essence of this program is to reach out to people in the community, especially, and I don't want to say just African Americans, but people who have run into some bad luck along the way, people who have made a bad decision, as what happened with you, and because of that, they are marked for the rest of their lives, which just isn't fair. Just isn't fair. And I know that you got into, uh, I mean, you got into the expunge part, but that had to be a lengthy process for you. Was it expensive?
Yes,
How,
it's
how,
it's very expensive, and that's something what I'm looking for movie producers to produce my book because a lot of young people need to see my story and read it, and and they'll go to the movies. A lot of young people will go to the movies before they read a book, but
right.
there's a lot of lessons in here, and there's so many garbage movies, out here that are promoting a bunch of nonsense that doesn't really help young people out. They just fantasize, fantasize, fantasize,
Hmm.
and and I just want to let them see that the other side, like everybody isn't college smart. So you really need to, there's some programs there that we need to get into trades, and trades are so important because you learn how to use your hands, a plumber, electrician, those are good jobs. They're good paying jobs. And school isn't for everybody. So we need to, instead of teaching Christopher Columbus discovered America, we need to start teaching them things that are going to help them survive in this world and in life. You
I
know,
agree. I agree. I
and
agree. I agree.
history is totally, out of context anyway. We know that.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
No,
what they say, history belongs to the writer or is
that's right.
determined by the person who writes it.
Yeah,
Um, Go
That's
ahead, Jeff. Jump
yeah,
right in.
yeah. I want to expound on what Shaun was saying about alternatives to college. You always want to learn something that you can make a living from, and trades are another way of doing that. I believe that because the times have changed, now you see more adversarial relationships between departments, police departments in particular, and the community. Well, I'm very passionate about bridging that gap because there's still an adversarial relationship between the two. So, how do you do that? Well, one way is um, looking to see how many people in the community are represented within the police department, right?
Right.
And I believe the Department of Justice is doing their investigations on incidents resulting because you don't have the representation. When you have the representation, it has been statistically found that you have more dialogue.
Hmm.
And when you have dialogue, turns into building relationships. And the healthier the relationships are, the better it is for both the community and police department in terms of handling crimes, uh, preventing crimes, and improving the overall quality of life for everyone involved, even the safety of the police officers.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to explain based on what Shaun was saying about being a part of the police department as a minority.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I believe I talked to both of you gentlemen about this, is that the portrayal we see now of police officers on television, news media, especially since the advent of the body cameras,
Yes.
and you see these arrests, and I hate to put it this way, but you see white police officers confronting black women and black men and women, and there's always this excessive profanity that comes out. Show me your effing hands. Get the F out the car. All of this stuff. I never experienced that in my career. And felony stops made many of them. Uh, and one of the things that the public doesn't realize is that when you confront people that way, you already elevate the tension level. It automatically you elevate the tension level, and that's a bad thing. And one of the things that I pointed out in my book, I always give it a plug every now and then, was that a lot of this is the result of people working in black communities that are actually afraid. And what you hear when you hear this, all of this cussing and all of this berating of people, that that all emanates from fear. It's not just they're
That's
not just evil, but it's fear. And there really has to be some sort of change. And I'm not advocating for an all-black police department, but the sensitivity training is not there. Shaun's incident, I mean, you need to read the book. He doesn't characterize it as well as it's written in the book. I'm telling you, where this man is hiding under a police car, not under a police car, under a vehicle, holding on to the undercarriage of the car to pull himself off the ground. And he's hearing his buddy being beaten by the cops, not only the thuds of the police officer hitting his friend, but also the reaction from the friends. I mean, this was a painful experience, and you're sitting there holding on, like wondering, okay, do I really want to give myself up? But the other part of you said, I can't hold out too much longer. And then when you give yourself up, you're getting all of this profanity, all of this debasement, and you're getting a gun pointed at you, and you're surrendering. I don't get that. But these are the things, these are the impediments, these are the perceptions that people have about policing. And I really want to get into this. What I'm asking you both of you. I'll start with Shaun. Coming on the job, and you came on in what year?
86.
Okay, you right together. Okay, did you see the impact or the need to have more people of color on the job as you through your experiences, and um, even in the undercover capacity, you did have some interactions with officers who weren't undercover. Uh, what was your perception of the
Yeah, well,
makeup and what you saw?
I actually found out about narcotics through the Guardian Civic League, the Black police organization.
We're
And
all members.
they were recruiting for minorities to go undercover because the narcotic unit, for years, the history of it, was majority Caucasian. Now, in the
Right,
80s, if everyone remembers, that's when crack hit. And when crack hit, that's when the world fell apart.
right,
And they needed minorities to go undercover into these crack houses, which was really crazy and scary. But we did what we had to do because if you didn't do it, you were labeled a bum
right.
when your fellow coworkers couldn't even go in there. So how are you a bum and they can't do what you're doing? But I would like to touch on the reversals that we've
Okay.
done,
Hmm.
and I can a reversal just for the listeners is when we go in, buy drugs take the corner down, and then I pose as the seller. We bag up fake crack or fake heroin. I call it White Lion, the reversals. You know, White Lion was the ship in 1619 that brought the first 20 Africans over here. So anyway, but
History.
but anyway, these reversals, I got to feel what young people feel selling drugs, and it's need. I really think drugs are a sickness now, and it needs to be legalized and done away with. It's killing our young people. There's so much power from selling, and I got the experience on at least 5 or 6 reversals where you have the world at your hands. You have young people, old people coming into you, sick people, and you're hustling, you're selling, you're like King Kong because you have control of these people. And it's just too much power and too much control for these young guys, and they don't understand. And they're killing each other over White Lion that, you had not to bring in anyway. You didn't bring it in here,
Right.
and so, I get it. Not only did I arrest, and Jeff and you, not only did we arrest people for narcotics, but I also think that it was wrong because if you have diabetes, you don't go to jail for diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a hospital, you go to a doctor. You should not be going to jail for drugs. But we didn't see it that way. We saw it as a job and we're working. But this whole concept needs to change. We need to get these young boys out the street, get them trades, get them jobs. They talk about criminal justice reform. And these are just book guys who know nothing about the streets, never been nowhere. Only thing they did was study a book, take tests, and now they want to make laws and decisions. The whole system of criminal justice, I know, Jeff knows, is a total disaster.
One of the things that I've been saying, Jeff, I've written letters to several senators, Congress people, some of whom have appeared on my program, Issues and Answers, who have not answered me at all on this topic. And one of the things that I said to them is that you're always going to these ultra professional people, these college professors or police executives, but you never, ever, ever talk to the guys on the ground, the guys who actually know and can feel and can tell you what is going on and how it looks. And I don't understand this from government officials who con the public that they're into police reform and they're into bettering the community and they're into dealing with this drug issue. But they never ever talk to people such as we. Never. And this is why this stuff perpetuates and it continues. And Shaun, your experience before, during, and after your career, Jeff, you were involved with narcotics also, and several other units, and we're the reference people. But the other part of this is talking about the need for more minority representations on these police departments, and this is a bad time. I don't want to dominate this because we only have a little bit of time, but I did. Thanks, Shaun, for the little lead in to help me out with this. But Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, they're looking for 260 police officers. Can't get any takers. $56,000 a year starting salary. Now there's more to it than just a starting salary. 260 short. I went down and looked at the Atlanta Police Department, which is near where I am right now. They're down 250. One of the city council president, Felicia Moore, said gun violence has taken the life of another child in our city. And it was a bad weekend last week. And what they're doing is they're crying for more police protection. Louisville Police Department struggles to recruit new staff in the defund the police era. This was just last 4/28/21. They're having problems. They had 190 police officers leave. Now, a lot of those 190 police officers left after the Breonna Taylor incident, as we had the exodus after um, an incident where a man was shot by a police officer at Wendy's here in Atlanta. And there was an exodus of certain police officers because they were upset because these officers were being held accountable for the actions that they did. Well, you know what? Good riddance, I say for that. But they have to be replaced. Tampa Bay, I looked them up. They're short, and looking up their article, they said that 86% of law enforcement agencies nationwide are experiencing shortages. 86%. This is a public safety issue.
Yes, it is.
And part of it is who gets hurt the most? The people who live in communities of color.
And not to cut you off, Lauren, but
Come on with it.
I don't know if you saw that Chris Rock clip I sent you, but he talks about bad apples, a few bad apples, speaking of cop. And he said, well, if you're in the airport and you're getting on a plane, you don't want to hear that there's a few pilots that are bad apples.
Yeah, I heard that.
Like, come on, that's
yeah.
not an excuse. That's not a good name,
Right.
You don't want to hear bad. You don't want to get on a plane with a bad apple.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem with that is the public doesn't know who the bad apples are.
Right.
But we know who they are.
Yes.
I mean, and again, we are the people least spoken to. We are the people least used.
Norm, if I may, because those of us that have worked alongside of those bad apples, I believe they need to incorporate some type of protection, whistleblower protection, because that blue wall of silence is real. And a lot of officers, for fear of retaliation, being ostracized, and a host of other reasons that are valid, don't speak up because for what I just forementioned. And
can I just jump in for a second?
Sure.
Because that you happened to mention that, and you did not know this, but this morning I was interviewed for a possible presentation before the U.S. Congress on protection for whistleblowers, particularly in law enforcement.
That's great.
So there are people who are working on that at this very, very moment. Great. And I am just so happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Norman.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
You,
Thanks.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Again, you need to read this book, folks. You need to read it. You ignored The Long Blue Walk, My Journey as a Philly Cop. If you have any interest, this is not just for people interested in law enforcement. This is for people interested in life.
Yeah.
That's what this book is about. This is people interested in life and how you have to try to defeat the hurdles that are put before you rather than accept them. We had a program here on Issues and Answers featuring a reverend from Philadelphia, Adarrell Fisher, and he's involved in a prison project where they're going out and they're trying to get legislation that's going to allow people who have been incarcerated to better be able to get employment. Because right now it's difficult even for rehabilitated people, supposedly in our system, to even come out and get a decent job. And we're not saying that there aren't offenses that people should be arrested for and incarcerated for. But after people have served their time and done what they do, they shouldn't have to pay. It shouldn't be a life sentence.
No.
And here we are in law enforcement putting this out there. and hopefully some people are going to listen. And Shaun, I want to get back to uh, you for just a minute for your goals for what's going to happen with Expunged.
My goal is to hopefully do some short clips and attract some movie producers. It's it's because it's self-help, it's hard to advertise in libraries, prisons. It's hard because it's going to help people. And when you have something that helps people, people shy away from, oh, that's not in our framework. And it's self help. You know, everyone needs different help. So my goal is to, you know, hopefully find some movie producer that say, hey, this is something that young people need to see and read. I
Hmm.
mean, in the school system, wherever.
Hmm.
And I'm not looking to just buy a whole bunch of gold change and a 12-car garage with 6 cars and, you know, but I'm looking to start my own expungement program and hopefully embarrass the government and say, hey, if this guy can help people get out of the streets, get a trade, reduce these shootings, killing each other, you know, that self-hatred, and start getting together and learn patience and companionship and just we don't have to hate each other just because we were taught to do that. We got to
Whoa.
change that system. We
Amen.
got to change that mind, that mental thing, you know? And the only way to do that is to get people commit crime, I think, for 3 reasons: food, money, and drugs. Get them food, there's enough food for everybody. Give them jobs, trades, where they can go and make themselves sufficient. Don't have to hustle in the street. And anybody want to do drugs? Open up a jail. Let them sit in there and do all the drugs they want. They can't rob, they can't steal, they can't. When you get tired of getting high, we're gonna put you in rehab, okay? And then it's done. It's over with. You did what you wanted to do, and boom, that's it. But you're not gonna hurt people because you want to get high. You
And
know?
Norm, study shows that what Shaun is talking about, that when you give people alternatives, it reduces the recidivism, and it
Hmm.
also increases their lifestyle, the quality of life for them as well.
Right.
So most of the people that end up in that life is because they have no other alternative. They
Right.
feel the
Yeah.
hopelessness, that society has pretty much let them down. So a program like his would work.
Hmm.
And
I agree.
and another big topic here, maybe it might be a topic for another show, Norman, but mental health.
Yeah,
Mental,
Woo.
there's nothing to do. The cops lock people up and kill people and shoot people because of mental health issues.
that's
It's
right.
wrong. It's wrong. You have to understand mental health first of all. You just can't take somebody who has mentally ill and lock them up. You're making them, you're turning them into an animal, like a lion in the jungle.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't do that. You have to work with people, help people understand their problems, and all this can change, man. All this can
Wow.
change.
We're going to have to get you on Dr. Wanjo's program because she would love to talk to you. Absolutely. Uh, I just find this topic so invigorating and so necessary,
Yeah.
and it's not talked about.
No.
And you know, I'll talk about the narcotics unit. I had 23 years on the police department before I went into the narcotics unit, which is backwards.
Mhm.
But those 23 years prior to that, I thought I knew all that I needed to know about policing.
Yeah.
And then once I got involved in with got into the narcotics unit, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different world. And folks, if you've never been in it, I don't mean seeing a piper or a crack addict on the street that you walk by. I'm not talking about some relative that you have that's a drug addict that's sort of like pushed to the side by the family. I'm talking about seeing how these people have to live,
It's
how they're
human.
being forced to
Yeah,
live.
Norm,
And
I totally agree with you. And it's you see humanity at its worst, basically,
yes,
both in society as well as on a police department as well. You
hmm
see the divisions of how certain communities, when you go in and search their houses, how they're searched one way, then you go into another marginalized community, how
Mhm.
they're searched another way. I mean, it looked like a tornado
yep.
goes through it. You know what I mean? So you see um the true nature of people come out in those desperate situations. You know what I mean? So Norm,
And
you
I
are you're absolutely right.
and I can tell you how racism even plays into it. And I'll be very quick because we only have about 15 minutes to go.
Okay.
But we did a snip operation that I led, and you guys know what the snip operation
Correct.
is. It was a basically we conduct an investigation in a particular
Mhm.
area and go in there and slam that area and get as much drugs out of the area and
Correct.
drug deals out of the area as we can.
Right.
Well, this particular one happened in the Abbotsford Homes, which is probably unfamiliar to most of the people here, which was supposed to be an impenetrable area. My one of my subordinates and I went in there. We got a foothold in that community. We were able to establish all the points of interest within that community. Also, a point of interest slightly outside of the community in North Philadelphia, where was a intermediary supplier. And but as a result of information that I was able to garner, we found out the big source of this. And the big source of this, all of these drugs, this crack, was from Morel Park. The person was Italian. I'll tell you that much. And this was the source. And when we did our snip operation to go in and make these arrests, it was okay to get these African American people who were low level, but I was told specifically, we're not going after Mr. Big.
The
We're
white
going to leave
line.
him alone. Yes, yes.
That's right.
We're not
That's right.
going there because that's too far out of the neighborhood.
That's right.
What a weak excuse.
Yeah.
What a weak excuse. Uh, we did stuff up in Roxborough and Manioc and got our hands smacked because what were you doing going up in that area that was predominantly white and getting all these pounds of heroin? So racism does play into it, which works to, again, against the community. But I just want to bring it back to the community
Yep. Yep.
one more time that the understanding that people such as Shaun and Jeff, uh, you guys came in at a time when it was really needed to have minorities come into the department, and your view of the people that you were dealing with, even the bad guys. I mean, they're bad guys are bad guys, but the way you treated people, the way you went about your job, and also the after effect. We're dealing after the fact now. We're out, we're years beyond that. But looking back on it and coming up with resolutions, how to resolve this, what needs to be done systemically to make the lives of these people better. And no one's listening. So, and I know, Shaun, I hate to keep jumping on you about this book, but in writing my book, I went through an emotional thing. I really did.
Mhm.
Did that happen with you in writing Expunged?
Yeah, it was more of uh, just trying to get people to not make the mistakes that I made.
Correct.
And writing, I encourage everyone to write. And I met a billionaire. He heard I had a book. He read my book. He invited me up to his penthouse. Fabulous. And he says he signs his book. He signs a book. He says, I have a book too. He signs it and hands it to me. And it went to South Africa, and they were miners. They went there and basically stole a whole bunch of diamonds from the Africa and gave them a couple of dollars. And now they're building skyscrapers all around, United States. But my point is, asked him, I said, how are you doing with advertisement and sales with your book? It's really tough. It's expensive. He goes, I didn't write a book to sell. I wrote a book so my grandkids, their great grandkids will know my life story.
Yeah.
And you don't have to write a book to sell. You can write it and document. It's like writing your own obituary while you're alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the greatest thing. And I encourage people, it takes your mind to a place where you relax and go back and reminisce on your life. And it's just a beautiful thing. Writing, like I said, until that lion learns how to write, the hunter's going to glorify him. That lion could have been asleep when that hunter killed him, but he's not going to tell you, I killed the lion while he was asleep. He's going to say, no, I chased him, I grabbed him by the neck, I pulled him, I did.
Yep. We have
education, writing is important, but not always education. Get back into the trades. I think we need to focus more on trades than college education.
Correct.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Great. We have a question from social media. This is quick because we're getting close to the end of our program. If you had to do it all over again, would you?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Absolutely. Man. I would say, starting my police career in the early to mid 20s, you're still trying to find yourself at that age. And with given so much responsibility and power is relative, but given so much responsibility, you're at liberty to take someone's take someone's freedom away from them. That you have to use that power in the right way. I specialized in my studies in school on leadership and learning the best practices about how to inspire people to do things. And we're all leaders in our own right, whether you're a supervisor or not, you just wearing a badge, you're still a leader in a community, and you're a leader in your own right, and you have a responsibility to affect people in certain ways. And I believe leadership is basically the answer to a lot of our problems, or effective leadership is the answer to a lot of our problems. Because if you have someone that's ill-equipped in skills of communication, dealing with people, conflict resolution, de-escalation, I believe that you're not going to get the right person in the right position or the right job. So yes, I would do it all over again, because I've learned a lot. I grew up pretty much as a man in the police department. I would say that there's a price to pay, in growing up, because with the demands of the job, with the hours, the stress level, it takes its toll. And it took its toll on me, and I believe that as a result of that, I paid a dear price for that, either in relationships or, commitment or whatever, what have you, because, what you see on a daily basis is not what the normal citizen would see on a daily basis, So, I believe that mental health, as Shaun was saying earlier, that, that should be afforded to officers as well, because we need to be mentally sane as well, because of what we see, what we experience. Going from 0 to 100 on a daily basis, I would say no less than 10 times a day, if you're working in a busy district, it's not normal, because you'll end up with some health issues because your adrenaline pump and all other types of issues that you run into.
Well, Jeff, let me just jump over to Shaun, because we're running close to time.
Yes, sir.
Shaun, same question to you. if you had to do it all over again?
I'm going to blow you guys out of the water. I'm going to say no. I don't want to do it again because the war on drugs was not fair. It was not fought properly. If I had to do it over again, I would change those laws. All this, you ruined too many lives. And once their life is ruined with a record, they're stuck. Yeah. There has to be a way to reverse all of these drug arrests. We made hundreds of thousands of drugs. I had people sell me drugs that weren't even drug dealers, but I knew the streets, I knew how to talk, and but what I'm saying is it's wrong. We did it wrong, and we have to really analyze this, man, and say, will we do it again? Not like that. No.
Okay.
It gotta be a better way.
And I would agree with him. I wouldn't do it the way I did it back then. I would do it a whole different way. So yes, I would agree with Shaun.
Well, Jeff and Shaun, I really thank you guys for coming on and opening up and giving the public a better inside view of what's going on, and also expressing that there is a need for more of us to be in this arena called law enforcement. And as I close out, I was really taken by a lot in Shaun's book. But Shaun, if you have your book available, I'd like you to read. I don't normally ask this, but this is the last part of your book, page 159 to starting at 60 years into my life. And I think this encapsulates all that you've said. But I think our listeners, Shaun, before we get into that, how do we purchase your book?
Sorry, say it again.
Yes, before we get into that, how do we purchase your book?
You get it on Amazon. The quickest way is to buy it on the Kindle. It's at Barnes and Noble. A lot of them won't stock it because it's self-help. So it's a lot of nonsense that goes on with stories and books that's going to help out people. But Amazon.com has it and Barnes and Noble. But the quickest way is the Kindle. If anyone has electronic, it can go right in the Kindle.
Okay, we're going to close out our program and have Shaun read the last portion of his book, which I think is profound, and there's a message to us all, and that starts on page 159 at 60 years into my life, and we'll take it right out.
You want me to go all the way to the end?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 60 years into my life journey, I'm ready to give back to my community with full intent. My dream and goal is to help people of all ages, but specifically the young, to motivate them to choose constructive, productive lives. I think of my idol, Muhammad Ali. Though he's my best known fighter, he was best known as a fighter, he was also a humanitarian. I strive to follow his example. I like to help minorities who commit foolish, nonviolent crimes to expunge their records so they can pursue lives of public service as police officers, firefighters, will become members of the United States military, will further educate in the trades and four-year colleges to help them get into their lives back on track so that mistakes of young don't dictate the course of their entire life. As an undercover officer, I have witnessed how easy it is for a young man, especially a young man of color, to lose hope in this world. As they watch their dreams get smaller and further away, I have watched them embrace a life of crime, which leads to early death. This is a cautionary tale from someone who has experienced both sides of the law. I also write it as a reminder to myself, as a mental and spiritual look back into my past journey. It was an effort to reflect, accept, and heal. In writing my story, I have relieved my life's tumultuous twists and turns. It's been a roller coaster ride, but it's brought me into an emotional space where I'm now ready to embrace my past and move forward. I hope that you and the reader can be brought into the place through this experience of reading. It ends with namaste. That's spelled Namaste. Namaste means the divine in me worships the divine in you. And you nod,
Abs-
you bring it. So that's for you, Jeff, all your readers. I appreciate you, Norman, and your fight that you're still fighting. And hopefully we can get something moving out of this, and maybe even some movie producers who knocking on our door here.
I want to close out with the African proverb that you've mentioned, so our listeners can hear it again. It's until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And that is from Chinua Achebe. So, uh, thank you so much, guys. It's been absolutely fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Issues and Answers. I'm Norman A. Carter Jr., happy to be here with you. So happy to have my illustrious guest. Peace out. Love.